lovely friends, it's Margaret, and it's time to nerd out about comics. I know at this point you guys are all asking the question, how many Batman shirts is enough for one woman? The answer is all of them. So today in the United States, as of the posting of this video, is Free Comic Book Day. It falls on the first Saturday in May, and it's an event that all of the local comic book shops in the United States participate in, and they usually have free comic books and different events like cosplay and meeting artists, that kind of thing. It all depends on your comic book store and how big they are and what they're able to do. Because it is Free Comic Book Day and I love comic books, I felt like today was the perfect day for me to do my very first original tag video. Today, the tag I am bringing you, if you hadn't already read the title, is If Books Were Superheroes. By the way, I have to say these are in order that made sense, not in particularly my favorite characters order, because we all know who would be first if it was in order of who was my favorite. The first question on this list is Captain America, the good old boy. Everybody knows Captain America is a little bit old-fashioned because he was born in the 1930s? I'm not actually sure when he was born, but his story starts in about the 1940s. The prompt for this one is, name your favorite read of last year. Now, I'm going to be doing my favorite read of 2017, depending on when you find this. You can do whatever year you want to do. If you have watched my top 10 of 2017, you know the answer to this question, but my favorite read of 2017 is The Wrath of the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This is a retelling of the Shahrazad 1001 Arabian Nights story. It is dark, it is twisted. The story was already dark and twisted, Margaret. What are you talking about? I know. It has such a great, premise and catch as to why all of the girls are having to die. It's not I don't want to give too much away, but there's a catch, and there's a reason that the things that are happening. And so Shahrazad decides that she is going to get revenge for the death of her best friend, and the best way she can do that is to marry the Caliph and kill him. Question number 2 is Wonder Woman, the Cinnamon Roll. Who is your favorite ray of sunshine? I'm gonna go with Inej Gaffa from Six of Crows. Inej is so sweet and pure and honest, despite the fact that she is working for probably the worst person in Ketterdam. Maybe not the worst person, but the most morally gray person in Ketterdam. I loved Inej. I loved how she stayed true to herself and true to her beliefs despite the environment that she was in. I love how she found a greater purpose through the events of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. If you don't know what Six of Crows is about, it's based in the Grishaverse, which is a world where certain people have different types of magic, and they're in Ketterdam, which is kind of like a mercantile city that's really, really focused on trade, and they are part of the underworld. The dregs, the crows are. And so it's about these 6 characters who are hired to pull an impossible heist and rescue someone from the most impenetrable fortress in this world. It all goes downhill from there, which is the best way for stories to go. Question number 3 is Black Canary, the Showstopper. If you don't know her, Diamond Lance is a metahuman, and one of her powers, well, her main power is that she has a very loud canary cry. If you have watched Arrow, you know what I'm talking about, but we're not going to talk about it any further. The prompt for Black Canary is, name a debut from this year that caught your attention. I'm going to go with The Bells by Danielle Clayton. I know this has been getting some mixed reviews on BookTube. I happened to love it, though. I will be doing a full bookish chat on this, so keep an eye out for that. I thought this was so creative and clever, and I loved the world that she built and the magic system that she built. It was very unique. It was so much more than a lot of the reviews that I've seen on BookTube have been saying. The basic gist of The Bells review is that it's set in a world where everyone is in shades of gray and the bells bring color and beauty. It goes so much deeper than that. I had an idea of the whole world being gray, but it's just the people. There's still color and life in the world, and people are addicted to having as much color in their lives as they can. It was such an interesting commentary on a lot of things, but one of the things that it really, really examined well is, how do we define beauty and what does beauty mean? The main character, Camellia, had such a healthy view, and I wasn't expecting that. The way she was approaching her powers and what she wanted to do as a belle was just so refreshing, and I felt like it really could have done that world some good if people would listen to her. Question number 4 is Spider-Man, the wise ass. Peter Parker is the quip king. The prompt for Spider-Man is name a character that you would want on your side in a sass-off. I'm gonna go with Adrian Ivashkov from the Vampire Academy and Bloodlines novels. I'm going through Vampire Academy right now and we're in book 3, and Adrian has just kind of come onto the scene. He came onto the scene in book 2, and so now we're really getting to know him and like experience him. And this man, he knows, like, he has a comeback for everything. It is fantastic. I love his like dry, acerbic wit. He's a little bit darker than Peter Parker is. So, but I still love him, and namely, I love him in this series, which is a companion series to the Vampire Academy novels, and it actually focuses on Sydney, and she is an alchemist who works, they're kind of like, their job is to kind of keep an eye on the vampires, and so she is sent to keep an eye on a set of vampires, and Adrian is in one of them, and chaos ensues. I loved this series so much, and I am totally going to reread it when I finish reading Vampire Academy. Prompt number 5 is Robin, the child at heart. I don't think that needs any explanation. I had to get Dick Grayson in here somehow, guys. The prompt for that one is introduce us to a childhood favorite of yours that you have carried with you into adulthood. My pick was Dealing with Dragons by Patricia C. Reed. This is the first book in the Enchanted Forest Chronicles. There are 4 books in the series. This one focuses on Cimarine. She is a princess who does not want to get married, so she runs away and makes a deal with the dragon that she will live with the dragon and take care of the dragon and be the dragon's princess. Usually in this world, the dragons have to carry princesses off, and she's just kind of offering herself as long as the dragon will let her stay with her and help fight off any princes. She ends up getting embroiled in like dragon politics, and she starts trying to teach herself magic so that she can protect herself, because dragons have hot tempers and sometimes things burst into flames. I read this book in middle school or high school, and then I went back and listened to it later, and I discovered that there's an entire series, but this is just such a witty, fun book. Chapter 1 is in which Cimarine refuses to be proper and has a conversation with a frog. Like, those are the chapter titles. They are ridiculous and fantastic, and I love them. Number 6 is Black Widow, the Spy. I feel like that needs no explanation. Everyone knows that Natasha is a spy, and she is the best at kicking butt in the Marvel Universe. So the prompt for Black Widow is to pick a book that snuck up on you and became an unexpected favorite. I went with Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I was in a phase where I felt like to be a good writer and a good reader, I needed to be reading books that I knew I didn't like, so I went into this thinking that I was going to dislike it. They used to have these abridged kids versions of like classic books, and they would have illustrations in them and stuff, and I love looking at the pictures, so I kind of had the idea of what Great Expectations was about. This entire book, like, I love Charles Dickens. He's hit and miss for me, but the ones that I love of his, I just love because he has such a great description and all of that. It's about Pip, and when he is a young boy, he helps out a convicted felon. The felon ends up getting caught and like shipped to Australia, because this happens in Great Britain. And he gets shipped to Australia, but then he comes back to Great Britain, sneaks back in because he's not supposed to come back, and he's rich, and so he ends up becoming Pip's benefactor and raising him up out of the circumstances that he was living in. What really made this book for me is the final sentence, and I'm not going to read it out to you because that'll spoil the ending, but I did not expect to love this book as much as I do, and to be just so happy when it ended, like not in the, oh my gosh, I'm so happy it's done, but in the, oh, that was a good book kind of way. Number 7 is The Flash, the Speedster. Barry Allen can run really fast. Do I need to go any further? And the prompt for this one is to pick a book that you read recently in less than 48 hours. I'm going with the 3rd book in the Embassy Row series, Take the Key and Lock Her Up by Allie Carter. This follows Grace Blakely. You guys have heard me talk about it. She is an ambassador's granddaughter, and she is actually embroiled, at this point, she's been deeply embroiled in politics. Also, it has Alexei, and he is fantastic and wonderful and very swoon-worthy if you are a 16-year-old girl. 16-year-old Margaret would have eaten him up as much as she ate up Zach Good, so... This series, like the last 2, I took forever to get to the 2nd and 3rd book, because I don't even know why. I don't know why, because I got to a point with the 2nd book where it took me like maybe a week to read, and I got to a point where I just couldn't put it down, and then I finished this one in 2 days. Probably in less than 24 hours, but I know that sometimes that's difficult because we need sleep and eating and work to make money to buy more books. I just couldn't, like, I started reading it and I could not put it down, and I put so much to the wayside because I just, like, she has you so embroiled in this political drama that you just can't put it down. Number 8 is Black Panther, the Legacy Keepers. That prompt is name a character that inherited their powers and or problems from their parent or parents. Y'all knew this was coming because I cannot do a video without mentioning Percy Jackson, my favorite series of all time. Percy finds out at the very beginning of this book that his dad is freaking Poseidon. And he ends up like getting chased and has to go on this quest and all this stuff just because his dad happens to be the god that rules the oceans. He also has like super cool water powers and demigod strength and stuff like that. So I felt like that kind of, I don't know, I feel like T'Challa and Percy could just kind of sit down and gripe about the stuff their dads didn't tell them. Number 9, y'all were wondering, I know, y'all were wondering when this was gonna come up. Y'all were wondering when this was gonna come up. But number 9 is Batman, the self-made hero. I know that there is some debate here and there as to whether or not Batman is actually a superhero, but I'm just gonna put out there that Batman is Superman's hero, according to Batman 37. So there. Bruce's entire purpose was becoming Batman, and he has just taken himself to a mental and physical peak that allows him to keep up and match wits with so many different superheroes and supervillains that just speaks to me. An ordinary person who is able to keep up with freaking Superman because he just knows his stuff. The prompt for that one is, name a character that has achieved the improbable through hard work. I'm gonna go with Darren Sharp from Leviathan. If you have not read Leviathan, you really need to. It's a steampunk retelling of World War I. I absolutely adore it because there are illustrations! Look at that! I'm so happy. Like, okay, so basically, this is like I said, this is a World War I retelling, and instead of the Allies and the Axis powers, you have the Clankers and the Darwinists. And the Clankers are the analog for the Axis powers. They have these really cool mech-type machines that they have invented and created. The Darwinists are England and its allies. As you could guess from Darwin, he's figured out how to like unlock the gene code and create these random like creatures. That's like some sort of jellyfish hybrid, and that right there is Darren Sharp. The two main characters are Alexander, who is the son that didn't actually exist of Franz Ferdinand, who is the Archduke. If you don't know, Franz Ferdinand was the guy that like was basically the excuse for the war because he got assassinated and the Austro-German powers got really mad. But Darren Sharp is actually a young girl who is from Great Britain, and she has disguised herself as a boy so that she can be an airman and help in the war and be on one of the beasties. She ends up on the ship called the Leviathan. And so this entire series is just basically like the two of them having to figure out how to stop a world war. She is very clever and exciting. She would make a very good Robin. Question number 10 is Iron Man, the inventor. Does that need much? I don't think that needs much explanation. Iron Man is handy. He's invented some great stuff. He created his own super suit, much like Batman created much of his gear. I'm not gonna get into that debate here because this is about Tony. And Tony would be mad if I was talking about Bruce, well, I'm supposed to be talking about Tony. Prompt for Iron Man is, name a character that's handy in a tight spot. I love my wisecracking inventors. I am going with Leo Valdez from the Heroes of Olympus series. So this is the companion series to the Percy Jackson series. It is 2 books from my very favorite book that Rick Riordan has ever written, which would be The Mark of Athena. I love everything about that book, including the ending. This is about Jason, Piper, and Leo. They're a new trio of heroes who have been drawn into the prophecy of 7. Leo is kind of the odd man out, but he is adorable. I love all of his, like, he has so many pop culture references. He is actually the son of a god, and I think it's a spoiler, but he is immune to fire, and he's really good with working with his hands, and that probably gives away which god it is. He is witty and fun, and I enjoyed every minute of him, and I think I might be the only person who liked how his story ended. Even if he was kind of a buttface in the way he did it, I still liked it. Number 11 is Superman, the icon. We could not do a superhero tag without freaking Superman. The prompt for this one is, name a book that you feel lived up to the hype. My choice for that one is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I did a whole review about this one. I will link it up here because I love this book. I was not expecting to love this book as much as, I thought I was gonna like it because I had a bunch of people that I respect, like they liked it, but there were some things about this that I was a little bit worried about. Some of the relationship dynamics. Listen, the way Holly Black handled those relationship dynamics are probably the only way that it works to be what it's going to be. And like, I was just very happy with how she handled it and how she worked with that. But this is about Jude Duarte. She is a young girl who was kidnapped on the day her parents were murdered by this fairy. He kidnaps her and her sisters and brings them back to the fairy lands, and he raises them there. And so Jude basically has grown up in fairy for most of her life, and she's trying to figure out how is she going to get in a position where she can survive this world where people end up twisted and broken and corrupted. The final prompt. I know, it's 12 whole prompts. You guys made it through. So number 12 is Captain Marvel the Newbie. Captain Marvel is coming out soon. She's one of the new heroes that is being added to the Marvel superhero pantheon. The prompt for Captain Marvel is, what is your most anticipated new release of the year? This can be one that came out anytime between January and December of whatever year you're doing this tag. My choice is not this book, but it's the sequel to this book, which is Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. I will try and get a picture over here maybe, so you can see both of them because they're very pretty. I read this last year. It is one of my most surprising reads of the year, namely because I thought it was a standalone. And then there was a freaking sequel, and like, I was so happy there was a sequel, but at the same time, I was not expecting to have to deal with the sequel. This one is about Laszlo Strange, who travels to this mythical city because they have a problem that needs solving, and he is part of the delegation that can solve it. The city lived under the rule of very vengeful gods for many, many years until something happened and the city's name was stricken from everyone's memory. They only know it as Weep now. And Laszlo has been obsessed with the city since he was a small boy. So this is like the chance of a lifetime for him to go to this city that everyone thought didn't exist. She leaves you on such a cliffhanger at the end of this book. Like, I needed the next book like I needed air. I didn't even know what to do with myself for the longest time after I finished this book. Those are my 12 answers for my very first original tag. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you liked it. If you would like to do this video, you are welcome to do this video. You don't have to know anything about superheroes. I am going to tag a couple of people: Professor Q at Professor Q's College of Books, Kenzie at A Lost Reader, and Angela at Books Are My Heart.